Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas or opinions expressed by myself, the guest, or a caller may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It's the state of giving and receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to a more complex form. So what then is Enlightenment Evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to a more complex human being, living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. Hey everybody, welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I'm your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer, and we are here tonight with Darryl Anka again. This is his third appearance on our show, and we've always had an amazing time. I want to thank all of you guys first. Everyone who is here from our favorite Facebook page, The Matrix Minds, welcome, hello, Brainiacs, and all of you at the ET Whisperer YouTube channel. Hello, welcome, guys. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here today. We have Daryl, but before we get to Daryl, we've got to go through announcements. We have a lot of things to go through, but I'm going to go through them as quickly as I can. First of all, next week for the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, we will have Dante Shante, and then we'll have Debbie Deschinger here. And then the week after that, I'm not sure exactly who's going to be here. I'm waiting for two people to get back. But if you want to keep on top of all the guests who do come, you can always go to the Facebook page, the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, or the Enlightenment Evolution Network. And we always keep it updated. We will have a website up for that as soon as we're able to get into that. We've been a little busy with all the ET whispering and Enlightenment Evolution houring, and we've been kind of just living life with the kids and whatnot. But it's really wonderful to see you guys today. Speaking of the Enlightenment Evolution Network, tonight we have another show on the Enlightenment Evolution out there, Talk with Valiant himself, and that's an Instagram live show. And he's going to be on live tonight at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, and that's 8:59 Pacific. And he will be having his 1-hour show with all the great guests that he does. It's a great thing. If you guys want to go check that out, check it out. We also have the Mothership, and the Mothership has not dropped a new video for a little bit, so I'm waiting to talk. As I explained last week, one of the three hosts, SPG, is not doing so hot. He's got to go for surgery soon, so that might be part of it. But when I get an update, you guys will. And you can keep in the loop at the Enlightenment Evolution Network page on Facebook. And soon the website will be up for that too. For the ET Whisper, we have nothing specifically new, but we do have a reminder for the Patreon. We have 2 levels there. You can go there, get 2 extra exclusive channelings per month, and it's an $11 and $22 package. And also, we have 2 amazing courses. One, Healing Sexuality, a talk about human sexuality, extra-dimensional sexuality, the energy of sexuality in general, and what it means, and all the things involved with that. And we also have one for how to channel. It's called Learning to Channel. And it's some of the things that I've taught publicly already for free, but also integrates a lot of new techniques from Artif and Treb. Amazing course. So you guys can go check that out. And one of my biggest announcements for those of you who have not gone to Kalina Angel's channel, she just put up her 5th video a couple of days ago, and it is amazing. She's got 5 videos now and 500 subscribers. And for those of you who've heard Kalina say, yeah, I'm going to get my YouTube channel up and going soon, for the last couple of years. Last year, she put up her first video, and now she's knocking them out one after another. If you haven't checked out her work, go check out her channeling. She has some amazing Arcturian guides and some reptilian guides too that are absolutely amazing. So go check that out, guys. And you can always go check out the Matrix Minds. Half you guys who are here tonight are here from there, so you'll be checking it out anyway. But the Matrix Minds on Facebook is one of the funnest places to be, and they talk about all things involved with what's going on the Earth and all the things involved in being in the Matrix. And it's a really great show. Thank you, Matthew, for allowing us to simulcast on your wonderful network with all your wonderful people. And thank you guys for being here tonight. So, without any further introduction, without any further announcements, I should say, I want to give the introduction to the man who's going to be here tonight. And I know most of you have no need for an introduction to Darryl Anka, but for 35 years, individuals from all over the globe have made the journey to experience the renowned channel, Darryl Anka, and the beings brought through the remarkable non-physical being from the future known as Bashar. And all of you guys who are in the channeling community, especially the ET channeling community, know who Bashar is and know who Daryl is. Some things that you might have not known about Daryl is that along with Edgar Cayce and Seth and Abraham-Hicks, the Bashar material is heralded as some of the most relevant, compelling, and dynamic information delivered to the planet to date. In addition to channeling Bashar, Daryl expresses his creative talents in forms of writing, directing, and producing films through his own production company, Zia Films, and now a new venture that him and his wife Erica have been doing, the escape rooms that we talked about last time. Those are actually up and running very soon. So this energy is really exciting too. Daryl recent documentary that he wrote, produced, directed, entitled First Contact, explores his life as a channel, the messages from Bashar. It shares through him. And Daryl states, I love story. I love telling stories, as many as possible, through movie making, writing books, developing interactive escape room adventures, doing escape rooms, very natural extension of what I do in the film industry for over 30 years, since both involve design and building sets, creating a story, writing scripts, and bringing other worlds to life. That's something Daryl does great through his writing expressions and also through this escape room. So instead of just telling you guys about Daryl, I think the best thing is to bring in Daryl and have him join the chat. Welcome, Daryl. Thank you so much for coming back again, brother.
My pleasure, Rob. Thank you very much for creating this opportunity.
Oh, it's always wonderful to chat with you, to talk with you, to have you on. I know everybody in our community really enjoys when they hear two people who are involved so heavily in the community talk about the things that are important to the community. And I definitely want to talk about a lot of those things. But I want to start off where I always start off, which is the story before the story. And you shared a little bit with us last time about your experience of bumping into the Star Wars and the opportunity and synchronicity of connecting with someone who was involved, which kind of brought you into that loop. But the main thing I want to share with people, because most people know your story by watching your documentary or reading content that you've shared before. What got you to be open to the expressions that you kind of utilized to get to Bashar, like the creativity, the excitement to create, and all of the things that you do now, the writing and directing and all of that?
Well, first, let me just give a little bit of an update to the bio that you were reading, because I realized there are some things there that I don't know how it got in there, but Bashar is not a non-physical being. He is a physical extraterrestrial. And also this channeling has been happening for 40 years.
Yeah, I think I pulled this one off the old one, and I actually probably pulled it off of, I thought it was your website, but it might have not been the Bashar website. So yeah, thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's okay. I just don't want people to be confused because it's not exactly the way Bashar has presented himself. Anyway, well, I've always been artistic. I've drawn ever since I could pick up a pencil, ever since I was 2 years old. So, I would be in my room for hours just drawing and creating, imaginary worlds and so on and so forth. I mean, to the point where my mother would have to come in and tell me that, it was time to eat. I didn't even realize I was hungry until she came in and said that. So I've always been very, very absorbed in creating imagery and ideas and things like that ever since I can remember. Also, I guess I found out much later that some of this, and I had a propensity for reading. I guess my mother and father told me that, I think they said when I was like, again, somewhere around 1.5 to 2 years old, I was reading, not children's books. I was reading magazines. So I think the idea is that I came in with the tools that I needed to have the kind of vocabulary that Bashar required for him to communicate with people a little bit more clearly. And the understanding that, imagination and connections of consciousness and things like that were also necessary. I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but at 3 years old, I had an encounter with something that I describe as kind of a white whirlpool of light hanging in midair. Yeah, and I knew there was something on the other side of that, like it was a doorway or something. And so I think there were several incidents like that that really were the early preparation for what I came to understand was, the connection with Bashar and what I had chosen to do in this life as a channel. So, there's a few things like that are sort of sprinkled throughout my life.
That's amazing. I did know about the portal. I think maybe we talked about it, or maybe I heard it somewhere else. But I did know about that. But what I didn't know is your propensity to read at such a young age, and that makes sense. When Bashar comes through, there's an articulation that's very clear, and it's very well put together, and it's something that people can hear, and anyone from just the regular averagely educated Joe to college professors can listen and absorb this information in a beautiful way. And it's always something that a lot of people don't realize is 100% to do with a channeler and their integration, not just with the being, but with the understanding of the earth and the vocabulary to it. It really helps them bring that information through in a better way. It's one of the weaknesses I have from my own vocabulary, which limits my ability in certain aspects of channeling. But it's something that's really beautiful, and also, it doesn't surprise me that you had more recall when you were young from your past lives, or maybe not recall, but the ability to read at that age is really unheard of. It had, from my perspective, it almost had to be an opening from spirit that says, hey, you're getting this young, so you can just rock and roll and head down,
Right.
go.
Yeah, it's just like getting, downloads and things like that. But the tools necessary for what it is that I obviously agreed to do later on in life.
Yeah, and this energy, we did talk about your young years of going into the creativity, and your fascination with Star Wars. Can you share that little story again for people who might not have heard it?
Yeah, well, I mean, since I was doing things like creating models and scenarios, I love inventing worlds, and I love it when they can be three-dimensional and people can experience them. So I had been, building models of different kinds of scenarios, alternate realities and things like that, again, ever since I was pretty young. And so by the time I was older, I really wanted to get into building miniatures for science fiction films, and that really excited me. Now, I had been knocking on a few doors, trying to see if I could get into the business, but nothing was really available at the time. And then, of course, in 1977, the first Star Wars came out, and I went to see that, and that really lit a fire under me to really want to get into that business. And, so kind of based on Bashar's principles, before I even knew about Bashar's principles, was the idea of following your excitement. And one day, the theater owner had been interviewed about all the long lines that were unprecedented of people waiting to see Star Wars. And in the article, he said, "Hey, we're having such a challenge handling all these lines. We'll hire anyone on the spot if they'll come down and help us." So I thought, it may not be model building, but I'll get to see the film as many times as I want for free, and I can really study how they did those effects. So I went down, I got the job, and I was there for about 3 months, I think. But during that 3-month period, there was only one 20-minute stretch where I took tickets at the front door because I was replacing somebody on their break. And in that 20 minutes out of all that 3 months, one of the technicians from Star Wars came to see the movie at the theater. I recognized him. We started a conversation. And he was responsible for getting me an interview into the Industrial Light and Magic company that actually did the effects for Star Wars. Now, I went to talk to them. Now, they were busy at that point doing the television series Battlestar Galactica, and they had already completely staffed up. But they said that another person had come to them who had just gotten a job, was trying to start a model company, a miniature building company, and they had just gotten a job for a TV series, and that they were looking for employees. So they connected me to them. I went and interviewed with them. I got the job, and I actually became the first employee in that company. So I started exactly where I wanted to, on the ground floor of that, and was in that business for over 3 decades.
That's amazing. And now you can understand the synchronicity that brought you there. But back then you must have thought, holy moly, this is the most amazing thing that could have happened.
Yeah, it was absolutely perfectly what it was I was looking to do, and because of that, I got to work on some incredible projects like 3 Star Trek films, and I, Robot and Iron Man, and so on and on and on and on. So I really got a chance to understand what that business is like from the inside, very early on. And that's what spurred me ultimately to, start writing scripts and producing and directing our own independent films. And now, like you said, we're moving on to something a little bit more 3-dimensional, where people themselves can live in the story by creating escape room adventures for people. And that's a further evolution of what it is I really love, is the full immersion into story, taking people into environments they can't necessarily experience in their daily lives, and having them experience something they can't normally experience and be changed by that in a positive way. So to me, it's the next level of telling stories and sort of making quote unquote movies.
Well, that's the beautiful thing too, the transition of the energy, where you have this 3D experience now that people can come into and connect with. It's something we talked about quite a bit in our last interview, but I can see a child who ends up being told they have to eat because they're so emerged into their own inner world and the psyche of their inner consciousness. Being able to do that for other people has got to be a gift. Now, I know this might sound like a dumb question, but I know you get great joy from that. What is it specifically that you enjoy about seeing that reaction other people?
I love helping people. I love letting them figure out how easy it is to really live the life that they prefer. And that aha moment when they suddenly understand a lot of Bashar's information and it clicks for them, and they come back and say, I applied it, it worked. My life is easier now, it's smoother, more synchronous. I really, really get a charge out of knowing that it's helping someone and and changing their lives, for the better. I just, it's like I just can't help myself. I'll even walk through a mall, and if somebody looks like they don't know where they are, I'll ask them, what are you looking for, and I'll help them find it. That's just the way I am. I want them to make the connections that they need to make to feel that their life is giving them what they need.
Did that happen to you? Were you always like that, or is that something that happened only kind of
No,
after you started integrating?
no, I've always been that way. I just feel like, why should people struggle to get the information or the things that they need? There's if they just make the right connections, if they just ask, there is help around, and there are people that are willing to help and make connections that help them. So no, I've just always been that way. So I guess I came in with that too.
And that's why Bashar then chose you, because that's the alignment of his desires is to help people realize how easy things can be in life.
Yes, although it's not so much a matter of choosing me specifically, as it is that we are connected in a sense. From a linear point of view, it's like saying we're the same soul in two different time frames. So it's just the nature of the being, and I'm one representation in this timeline, and he's another representation in another timeline. Like we're both extensions of the same oversoul, if you will.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think too. As a channeler, a lot of people like to definitely split you apart. I've seen people call you Bashar, and
Yeah,
people
and
used to
that's
call
fine.
me Treb.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
perfectly fine. I'll answer to it because it doesn't make any difference to me. I know what it is that it's a recognition, and that's fine because it's a great energy to recognize, and it also helps me feel more like I'm becoming my version of him.
and that's beautiful, and that's kind of why I brought that up. The consciousnesses are connected. If they weren't,
Mhm.
there would be no channeling. There would be no
Right,
connection that way. Yeah.
right, right.
Oh, I love that. Now that you guys have been, last time we were talking to you, you're getting ready to start working on the escape rooms, and you were planning and trying to find a building and
Right.
hoping that you had one. Now you're there. You have it
Yeah,
up. You have it ready.
we are open as of 2 weeks ago in Calabasas. So anyone that's interested that's local can go to boggledescaperooms.com. That's Boggled, like mind boggling adventures, boggledescaperooms.com. And they can book on the site.
What can people expect from the escape rooms? Most people, I imagine by now would know what an escape room is, but a lot of people were surprised when they heard that you had one opening.
Yeah, I mean, we have one adventure at the moment. We're now developing a second adventure. Most escape rooms will open, with one or two or three. But we are doing what we can to get through the first one and have that operating smoothly. And then we're, like I said, developing a second one with a completely different adventure for people to experience. But it's basically, a series of spaces that are themed, designed to make you feel like you're in a different reality and give you the opportunity to exercise different perspectives by finding clues and solving puzzles, completing a mission, completing a goal that's challenging and fun within a certain amount of time. That is basically what an escape room is. It's an immersive experience that allows you to exercise different parts of your brain, allows you to build communication, team building, and problem solving skills that are usable out in the world. So it's a very unique form of entertainment that actually sort of educates at the same time, or allows you to reinforce what your skills really are, and maybe even discover that you have skills you didn't think you had.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm imagining, is that you got people who have never really pushed themselves, that maybe get dragged along by a friend or a family member, and now they're forced to really use their mind, and connect with that. I'm sure that they can explore so many different aspects of their own self that have never really had a chance to look at, and that's amazing. But we also talked about this last time. The times now are much different than they were. A lot of people are digitally inclined and working on integrating their lifestyles around video games, internet, metaverses, and all of that.
Right.
And I always thought that there was something great about being able to have a video game like experience and do it in real life. And that's, a lot of
Mhm.
people are dying to create that and can't figure out, but that's exactly what an escape room is from my perspective.
Exactly. It is exactly that. You are in the video game. You are the character, you are the heroes, you are having the adventure.
And the Egyptian theme that you guys have for the story is very interesting. And someone before the show had texted me, Tyler Ellison, who was on the show a few weeks ago, and he wanted to know if your energy awareness has any connections to past lives in that ancient Egypt area, and if so, if those lives you were also connected to Bashar.
I'm sure that's highly probable. I have a well, let me back up. Over the course of the 40 years that I've been channeling Bashar, he has dropped breadcrumbs for me as a kind of a meta puzzle to figure out over time, putting pieces together, recognizing this, making a connection there, finding this bit of information that connects to a much bigger story about my cultural and ethnic background, which is half Arabic, half Middle Eastern, and half Irish, and um, and connects to his civilization in some way, and other cultures on our planet, like Egypt, and so on and so forth. So there is a long-standing sort of meta puzzle that I'm working on figuring out, and I get little hints from him and from synchronicity from time to time that give me another piece of that puzzle. So it's very interesting to me. It's kind of a private journey at the moment, but I hope to be able to sort of put more of it together in the near future, because what I've already discovered is quite fascinating.
If there's ever a point in your life where you feel like sharing that is something that would be useful, do you think that you would integrate that into some of your writing, or maybe even an escape room?
It's possible. I don't know yet. I'll just have to wait and see how the story unfolds for me. But I
Yeah.
have, we've already, like I said, we've already started developing the second adventure. We have a third that is on paper. And I mean, we really have enough escape room adventures to create for the next 10 years. So this is a long-term thing. And every single one of them will get sort of bigger, more immersive, more involving, more realistic. So, because ultimately, I really want people to feel like they've been transported to another world, another reality, different times, different places, and really get a sense of adventure out of what it is they're experiencing. So they know that, they can expand their awareness of what's possible and change their perspective on what it is that's possible for them to do.
Well, it seems really natural to me. You and Erica are both creative people. You've always enjoyed that aspect of connecting with creativity and bringing it to a place for other people to be a part of and join with the movies and films that you guys have done. And also, both of you are authors. Have written
Mhm.
books before, so this is something natural to me. And I have no doubt that you could probably run 100 years worth of different themes and different integrations. That would be amazing. What is the one that you're thinking about right now for the next one? Can you share anything, or do you not want to spoil that for us?
No, that's okay. The next one is called Retro, and we haven't worked all the details out yet. But the basic premise to the second room that we'll create is that for some reason time has been shattered, and what you enter is something that is separated into different eras and separated into different 2 and 3 dimensional experiences, where you have to figure out how to put it all back together to correct time and space. So a lot of it has to do with, from 1890 to 1980 and different eras and different decades within that, and learning, through different kinds of musical clues or other kinds of pictorial clues, what it is you have to figure out in order to correct the shattering of time.
That sounds amazing, and that's right up the alley. And multidimensionality, timeline integration, all the things that you've learned about through channeling. And this is something most people wouldn't consider, the amount of energy information that you've gotten through your work, through your creative streams, and from channeling the actual information. These things are giving you a whole new dynamic of a creative outlet for you. And I think it's a beautiful way that you've done that.
Thank you.
It's Yeah, absolutely. It's something me and Kalina are going to do when we are in California, hopefully coming up soon. We're going to stop in and check you guys out for sure.
Oh,
But
please, absolutely do so.
oh yeah, we would love to see you guys anyway, and see the place and see all the things going on. So um, the thing you had said something about dropping breadcrumbs, that Bashar has done that for you to kind
Mhm.
of understand the greater theme of your soul. And it's something that many channelers I've talked to have said when I tell them what I go through as a channeler. I always tell them it's funny how someone can come to Ardif or Treb and say, "Hey, can you share more about this idea with me and tell me what's going on?" And they're like, "Yeah, A, B, C, D, E, and you've got to figure out the next step." And then I
Right.
say, "Oh, wow, that's amazing. Hey, can you answer this for me, Treb?" And they're like, "No,
Yeah, no.
you know how to do it."
Yeah, get it together. That's part of the fun.
Yeah, at first it was extremely infuriating and
Oh,
frustrating because I was like, "You're gonna help everybody but me? You know, I'm the one that
yeah, no,
was
they're
able to
helping.
connect it." Yeah,
They're
and
helping you. They just want you to do it a certain way so that you can grow from it.
it's
Like
always
all
a
of us.
beautiful thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it sounds like Bashar does that with you
No,
a
he
bit too.
does. It's very
Well,
it's very playful and very mysterious.
Well, it's also, because of the integration process and the connection with you and that deep level, it really, he understands your abilities and your capacity to learn more than anyone else probably in the world could. Even people who are the closest person to you, your wife, Erica, probably even more than that, just because the integration process is so deep. So it's always funny to me when that happens, and people who start channeling share similar things. But um, when you're going through all of this experience, how has that kind of been now that you're doing this and you're also channeling? Does that feel a bit weird? You've always done channeling
No.
and other things. So,
Yeah, no, it's par for the course. I've again, even before I knew about Bashar, I've just always had a propensity to do what excites me, to follow my excitement, and to multitask, to do several things at once. So that's pretty normal for me.
and I forget, what is your astrological sign out of sheer curiosity?
Libra, October
Libra.
12th.
Oh, Libras can do everything. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, not everything, but yes, we definitely like to do a lot of things.
Yeah, my sister is an October 11th.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, she's definitely one of those multitasker, can learn and master everything things too. Um, all right, so one thing too that I wanted to talk about that is an extension of what you're doing with the escape rooms, the consciousness behind people who are going to know who you are and connect with you. Um, on all the other work that you do besides channeling, the people who really have enjoyed the channeling and that has helped shift their lives, they kind of feel like they know you, even though they may have never met you, and they feel very connected to you. So of course they're gonna integrate
Mhm.
and come in and have the time that they want. But a lot of people who might not understand, how their reality could be more expansive, the energy behind what you're doing and how you're doing it, you said kind of teaches people their capacities and teaches them, to use that, to do that. Is there
Mhm.
any example of something that you've seen happen in an escape room or something in your own escape room that kind of helps push people towards that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the psychology of how different people approach a puzzle is fascinating to watch because, as the game guide, we're watching them and we're also helping them through it if they need clues and hints that they can't figure out. But it's about just sort of teasing them with that and giving them just enough so that they get that click, they get that, oh, I see what you're talking about. And they see things one way at one moment, and then suddenly they get it and see it in a completely different way. And watching that happen to a person is fascinating because they really light up. and they really feel that aha moment. I've broken through something here. And it's that breakthrough experience that we see all the time in an escape room with different people doing different things. So that's really rewarding. And I think it really bolsters people to know, hey, you can have these aha and breakthrough moments in life. You just have to start looking at things from a different perspective, and that's what escape rooms are really good for, because the puzzles are many different kinds of puzzles that rely on people looking at things from a lot of different ways, which is why it's great to have a team, because everyone has different skills and everyone looks at things in very different ways. And the number of different approaches that people have in an escape room, like I said, it's fascinating. One person will see something right off and just automatically get it. Another person may see something completely different that another person just completely overlooked, and they'll get that. And then when they communicate and they team up and they bond over that discovery and share that information and share those perspectives, then they each get to understand that there's a different way to look at things, and that what works for you might not work for me, but that there are different ways in which everything can work for different people. So it's fascinating to watch, and we see it over and over again every time.
See, I like that you said watching the psychology of people is fascinating to see how they approach these same problems differently. This is something I've always had as actually probably one of my biggest fascinations in life. I love to see how people tick. I love to see why they believe what they do, how they got to that conclusion, and the life circumstances that they either held on to or pushed away in order to kind of really make that work for them.
Yeah.
What have you noticed about people who usually go in there and they're pretty effortless? Are they people who are genuinely very stoic or very happy or very excited, or
All
is
kinds. All
yeah?
kinds. It just depends on how they look at things. Like I said, we've had people look at a puzzle and just not get it at all until they get a hint. And then we've had people just look at it and solve it in like 2 minutes. They just understand the nature of that puzzle. It's the way they
Wow.
think. So, and surprisingly, in terms of, you sometimes think, well, that person looks like they're oriented that way and they're going to really get this. But then someone comes in that's oriented completely differently. And sometimes we have to ask them, it's like, how did you figure that out? And sometimes they tell us, and it's completely from a different direction than we thought was possible. And getting the feedback from the people that have been through the room actually helps us improve the room, because we see where the flaws might be, where we made assumptions that we shouldn't have made, where we made things either too challenging or not challenging enough. But we learn from their perspectives what we need to add that makes it challenging, but not too difficult. It gives them enough guidance that they still feel like they're solving the problem without us, but it doesn't frustrate them. It doesn't stop them from going forward. So running an escape room and designing an escape room is a real balancing act, we're discovering, about making the people feel challenged in ways that make them feel good about solving the puzzles and feeling better about their abilities. And, at the same time, not making it too easy so they feel like they're being spoon-fed, because no one actually likes that. People really do love solving challenges, and it helps them grow, and they really enjoy that feeling.
Oh yeah, and that's why a lot of the video games that are out there now are really popular. People, the whole puzzle breaking, the whole mental exercise, and the more frustrating it is, the more popular the games tend to be, except for when they're so impossible that they're impossible. And
Sure.
yeah, so that makes sense. And
Yeah. And the way we've designed the three chambers of the adventure is, it kind of starts out, it's still challenging, but it starts out easier. The middle chamber is a little bit more challenging, and the final chamber is the most challenging of all. So it allows them to really sort of build their perspective muscles as they go through it, by giving them more and more and more challenges to overcome from very different points of view.
Yeah, they're literally exercising their mind muscle and their perspective muscle. That's brilliant. Yeah, I never thought about it from that perspective either. The person who's creating the room also has a specific way they see things and the way they believe
Exactly.
things. And was it just you and Erica who created these, or did you guys get
Yes.
some
We
just
had
you?
a we had a mentor that helped us with the understanding of how to set up an escape room, and answered many of our technical and even legal questions and things like that. But no, Erica and I are the ones that designed all the puzzles, the whole adventure, and I built every puzzle, and she and my sister painted all the puzzles. And
Awesome.
all of the things we've done in this case, because we're dealing with, ostensibly a theme that is connected to ancient Egypt, we wanted to be sort of true to the ancient vibe. None, except for an opening video that gives you what your mission is all about, all of the puzzles are activated mechanically. There's no electronics in any of the puzzles in this particular adventure, which is called the Key of Destiny. They're all mechanically operated. So that was a real puzzle itself, to figure out how to make all that work and not be overly redundant.
See, that's fascinating to me too. The energy of creating something like that, you literally have to think of all aspects. And I hear you basically sharing how you're learning too as you're going, and
Oh
the
yeah.
process of that energy. And it's hard for a lot of people, I think, to wrap their head around that. They see you, hey, there's Daryl, the master channeler, and you've been doing that for 30, 40 years, you said, almost.
Yeah, 40. This is the
Oh,
40th year.
well, happy 40th. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, see, you mastered that though. I
Yeah.
imagine, I've only been doing it since 2010, and it feels easy to me. That's the easiest part, of life, is just getting ready to channel. But
Mhm.
when you learn something new, you have to take the skills of all the things that you've learned from those to apply. But this is such a three-dimensional
Right.
energy with a capacity for the higher dimensional understanding that comes with it.
Right. Well,
I,
that's what the film industry did for me too, because I understand how to build sets. I understand how to create environments. So, I'm merging all these things together in the escape room.
That's beautiful, and I really do. I do love that. A lot of people too are sharing their fascination with what you're sharing too. Um, the complexity of the puzzles that you guys have shows the complexity of your creativeness. So when people go there and they're like, "Holy moly, that's crazy," they know that now that your mind and Erica's mind are what created that. I love that.
Yeah. And what we're grateful for, and what we try to achieve, and what people have done the escape room have reinforced, is maybe not absolutely everything, but we have several puzzles that even people who've done dozens of escape rooms have never seen before, in terms of the way the puzzle works. So we're very happy about that, but that we can give them something new, even though they may be very experienced. And the range of people that, we had a lot of beta testing before we opened, having people who were new and also very experienced people go through it, and that's that helped us work out a lot of the bugs. But you still do that even when you're open. There are little changes you make to improve things, and so on and so forth. It never really ends in that sense. But but we've had people that have never done an escape room go through the beta testing, and we've had people that have literally done over 300 escape rooms go through it. And the gratifying thing is that it still seemed challenging for both, not too easy for the experienced and not too hard for the new people. So we've managed to achieve somewhat of the balance that we were aiming for, which is great.
Well, you got the sweet spot, the spot that's going to create an environment for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're aiming for. So I'm grateful we managed to actually get into the ballpark somehow.
I love that, and I know this part being one excitement that you guys have had for the last couple of years. I know
Mhm.
you were doing escape rooms before that, which is what kind of created the excitement.
Yeah,
Um,
well, we after making the independent films we made, and it not not really being very lucrative because of the state of the film industry nowadays, we were looking around for something that used our skills that was different. And the first thing we sort of locked onto was, they do these haunted houses every year, and we were kind of excited about doing that. But we realized, well, that's really only seasonal. We wanted something for all year long. And that's when somebody piped up and said, well, why don't you do an escape room? And both of us kind of like, well, what's that? And that's when we started doing our research and we started doing escape rooms. And I think after just about our ninth or 10th escape room, we just got so excited about this and found out enough about the business that we said, let's just do our own. Let's just do it.
That's amazing. I love that you are able to do what it is you share with others to do. And I know that's something, unfortunately, in our community, we don't see enough of, at least from where I've seen, is people who share that you should follow your excitement, but don't often do that. You do. You're actually
I do.
following.
And the thing that I appreciate most about it is I can stand firm and say to people, look, I have always done this and it's always worked out. Always. It's never failed to work. When I am excited about something and I go in that direction actively, it has always worked. So I know a lot of people are scared about doing that. They don't feel that they're, going to be able to support themselves. And I'm not encouraging anyone to leave a means of support that they don't feel confident, if they don't feel confident about that their excitement can't support them. But I am living proof that doing so can support you, because hey, I'm 71 years old and I've always done it, and it supported me this long, and I don't see any reason why following my excitement won't continue to support me.
I really love that. That's amazing. You were the Bashar beta tester.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what other things in life have been exciting you lately? I know most of your time and energy and focus has gone to the escape room. Is there any other thing that you've always had excitement for that you haven't really shared?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still doing the channeling, obviously, on a monthly basis on Zoom. We're doing a few live things like doing Conscious Life Expo, which I think is every February here in LA. But yeah, I'm really enjoying doing the monthly Zoom sessions. Anyone that is interested in participating in that and asking or putting a question in for Bashar can go to bashar.org, bashar.org. And the list, of every single session that was upcoming will be found there under new events and so on and so forth. So I'm still excited about that. I am excited to get back to some of the books I was writing, but just haven't had time to get back to because of the escape room. So but right now I'm really just focused as a creative outlet on pursuing the escape room and creating all sorts of different adventures, more and more immersive, more and more realistic, more and more exciting adventures. That's really the culmination so far of my passion in life.
Yeah, the books was something we talked about before. You've already got 2 that you've done in a series. Can you share a little bit about that too?
Yeah, there's a being that I channel intermittently called Hilla Crissing, and she's a human alien hybrid, ostensibly from 700 years in the future on Earth in Ireland. And while she has brought through in my channeling a few elements of her actual life as she defines it, I got inspired to write a science fiction series using some elements of her real life, but embellishing it with a sci-fi story. So I've done book 1. The series is called Shards of a Shattered Mirror. Book 1 is called Cryptic. Book 2 is called Nocturnal. Both of them are available and can be found through my site, which is darrylanka.com, darrylanka.com. And I'm halfway through the 3rd book in the series, which is called Shapeshifter. So it's a series that is fun to write and has some elements, maybe about 5 to 10% of the elements that are actually in her life, but the rest of it is science fiction, just because I had to create sci-fi elements to tell the story I wanted to tell. So not most of the books are not real in terms of what's going on in her life, but I think that they tell a more exciting story. So not that her life is not exciting, but it's based on her learning experience, the 5 levels of what she calls mastery, which is a cryptic, which is nocturnal, shapeshifter, sage, and wraith. These are 5 levels that she has practiced in her life that allow her to express her abilities and powers and connection to the world and to spirit in the most powerful way. So I've taken those principles and made one book for each of those levels that she needs to accomplish in her life, or has accomplished, or will accomplish in her life, since she's in what we call the future. So that's been very exciting for me to concoct those stories as well.
Yeah, they were very fascinating. A lot of people gave great reviews about those two. I haven't read through both of them, but I read part of the first one. It was very fascinating. I just, for some reason, I'm not able to get the time to read, but they were extremely fascinating. Now, some people don't know that you've channeled more than Bashar. Willa is one being that you've intermittently done. How many other beings that you're aware of that you've channeled?
Over the course of the 40 years, it's very rare for me to bring through other beings. Bashar is there, 95% of the time. But in the beginning, for the first couple of years, while he was there, I wasn't used to his energy. But another being from his planet, a female that we referred to as Anima, is who I actually channeled more often in the beginning, because it was easier to bring her energy through. And once I got used to her, it was easier to bring Bashar's energy through. So she then sort of took a back seat and Bashar came through. And over the course, there has been a being from Sirius now and then, very rarely, that comes through. Once or twice, I believe, that Bashar's own father has come through, because he is instrumental in teaching beings on their planet how to become first contact specialists. And so he's had a couple of comments. There was even one time a dolphin consciousness that we called the Dreamer that came through, that was sort of an ambassador from the cetacean world. And there's been a couple of others, very, very spontaneous sometimes. But I'd say over the course of 40 years, it probably hasn't amounted to more than somewhere between 5 to 10 additional beings, and for very short periods of time, and on rare occasions. So like I said, it's 95% of the time it's Bashar, or sometimes he'll facilitate communication from another being, but it'll be him facilitating it. So that's basically how it goes. It's mostly him.
Do you have one that feels more fun, or that you have a different type of experience with when you channel them?
Well, definitely Willa is more fun, because she has, a more of an earthly sense of humor, in that sense that I'm used to. The being from Sirius was a completely different feeling, because it operated at such a high frequency, and the information came through so quickly that you almost have to slow down the tape to hear what he's saying. So it feels like I'm being set on fire when that being comes through.
Whoa.
It's like an electric arc, and it just delivers an amazingly fast stream of consciousness. So that was probably one of the more unusual ones that I've channeled.
Well, that's great, and I didn't know the Anima story until you just said it, and that's fascinating.
Yeah, and again, that's like Bashar. That's not their names. They're telepathic. They don't have names, but they knew we needed to call them something. Bashar is a Middle Eastern word that simply means messenger, and that's the word that was there when the telepathic contact happened. I didn't speak Arabic. I didn't have any idea what that meant. I thought it was his name. But as I was told by someone who did speak Arabic, is what it meant is messenger, or bringer of good news, or even human being is what it means in one context. Anima, we chose that because anima is the principle of a female energy coming through a man. So that just seemed like an appropriate thing to refer to her as, since that's exactly what was happening.
Oh, that's crazy. It's actually amazing, because that part is very common with channelers who end up channeling long term. They have this one guide that they work with initially to help get their energy up to a higher place, and then another being from a higher level of consciousness comes and connects, and that's who they do with more. I've always channeled Treb, and Ardif came after Treb, but now I channel Ardif more than I do Treb, so that makes sense.
Right. And it was actually a 3-level process, because the first being I learned to channel was actually my own higher self. So I made that connection, then Anima came through, then Bashar came through.
Is that something you would suggest to people when they first start wanting to channel or getting ready to learn to channel, to focus first on their higher self?
You can. I'm not going to suggest that they do so, because it's something that simply happened naturally, and it's something that happens commonly for people who start to channel, is because you have to make that connection within yourself. You have to be comfortable because your higher self is always involved, no matter who you're channeling, because you're making a connection from, mind to mind, and it's the higher self that helps facilitate that for the physical mind. So the higher self, whether it's actually the one speaking or not, in a sense, is always somewhat involved. And in fact, Bashar has often said that when people are talking to him, he's functioning almost as a stand-in or a mask to get them used to the idea that they're actually speaking with their higher mind. And he's just being a symbol of it, so that they can learn that that's what it's like to talk to your higher mind. It's like talking to him. So when he says, you walk around your daily life and you come across a challenge, if you're used to talking to Bashar, you could just stop and say, well, what would Bashar say in this situation? What would Bashar say to do? And he's saying the minute you do that, you're actually opening up to getting the information you need from your own higher mind.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I never heard you or Bashar say that within the huge amount of content that you guys have out, but
Yep.
it makes sense because I've always seen the channeled entity as a mirror for the person and their own higher conscious. So that makes, that resonates and makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
This is something I know a lot of people are very excited about. More people now want to learn to channel than ever before. I know we talked about this a little bit the first time we talked, but
Right.
what kind of are your tips or the first steps for people who really want to get channeling?
Well, I think the first thing to understand is that everybody channels, because when you follow your passion, when you're in the zone, so to speak, when you're doing what you love to do and time seems to slip by, you are in the channeling state. And that state in the brain is called gamma. It's between 40 and 100 cycles per second. So it's natural for people to go into the channeling state. Now it's just a matter of, what are you attracted to do with it? Did you want to just use it for your own creativity? Did you want to just download, information? Did you want to connect to other kinds of spirits or beings? So everyone can channel. It's not a mystery. It's a very normal function to go into that state. And everyone that's following their bliss does so from time to time. So it's a matter of what kind of channeling, there's automatic writing, there's just, conscious channeling in the sense of I'm just getting a download from someone and I'm telling you what they're saying and I'm fully aware of this. There's, things more like what I do, where you're kind of going into a very altered state. You're not really hearing or paying attention to what's being translated through you, but you are having your own experience. So it just depends on what you're attracted to do. And I usually find that first of all, synchronicity will bring you the information you need that guides you in the direction of what would work best for you, if you're just open to allowing that to happen. And secondly, the only tip I can give at the moment, if people really want to either vocal channel in sort of a similar way to me and you, and or automatic writing, it may work for that as well, is you can practice with permission slips like tarot cards and things like that, and learn to hone your skills at recognizing symbols and what they mean and how they come to you, because a lot of telepathic information doesn't come as words, it comes as images and feelings. And if they really want a vocal channel in the way that I do, a good tip that Bashar has given is gather some people around. They can be friends, but they have to have questions they truly want the answers to. They can't just be faked. And if you just allow them to ask the question and just get out of the way, just let the answer come, whatever it is. You have to not worry about how you look, how you sound. You cannot worry about whether you're right or wrong or accurate. You just have to let the information come. Because when someone asks a question, it's like they're pulling the information from above through you to them. It's like grounding an electric circuit. asking questions of a channel is one of the easiest ways for channels to learn how that feels and get out of the way. Because if you're just downloading information for yourself, well, then, your thoughts come into it, and you can think about it and wonder, is this right? Is this wrong? But if someone is asking the question of you as a channel, it's literally like they magnetize that information to just get pulled through you, so you don't have to think about it. You can just let it be whatever it is. But you cannot worry about what's coming through. You have to know that whatever it is right now is what serves the purpose of the moment. So you have to be okay with all of that. Those are the tips I can give.
Yeah, trust is a vital importance. I know every time I've taught people with channeling, self-trust is huge, and the asking question thing is a beautiful thing. I remember you mentioned that last time too. It really helped. Now I should have asked you this before we started, but I forgot if you only had an hour, if you had the whole 90 minutes tonight with us.
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay, good. Can you also share with people a little bit about the energy? Because so many people are trying to channel and trying to connect to their own consciousness. Um, why do you think people are doing this now more than they were 5 years ago and 10 years ago and 50 years ago? Why is it so much more popular now?
Well, it's an evolution. I mean, we are awakening to the fact that our consciousness is greater than we have been taught to believe, that we are not just physical beings, we are non-physical beings as well, and that the physical part of us is, in some sense, the smallest part of us, is the most focused part of us. But we are in spirit, we are naturally spirit beings, and that I think we're starting to just simply awaken to that fact and start to realize that there are more ways to perceive information, more ways to access information and connect to source than we thought before. Just like I said in the escape room, there are different ways that people learn to perceive things. And I think as we wake up more and more as a society to our spiritual nature, then everyone has their own talent and skill about how they connect to it. And it's synchronicity that will bring you that information in the way that works for you. So I think that's why people are seeing more synchronicity, or recognizing that everything is synchronicity. That's a more accurate way to say it, because it's not like when we start perceiving synchronicity, it's not like there's more synchronicity happening. It's that we're more aware of the fact that everything is connected. And synchronicity is space-time's way of showing us that everything is connected, that everything is one thing, and in different forms and different expressions. So I think it's part of our natural evolution of coming to the end of the cycle of limitation and truly being who we are. And being free to be that opens us up, hones our senses, and makes it more capable for us to perceive things that we couldn't perceive before, that were invisible to us in the past, because we simply didn't allow our imaginations to expand to the point where more things are possible and more things are probable. So I think it's just part of the evolution of humanity.
That's a beautiful thought too, and it really resonates with myself. A lot of people in the chat too resonates with them. It brings us up to now. This time we're just getting over this experience that for the last few years has been a pretty heavy vibration for a lot of people on Earth. A lot of sadness, a lot of fighting with one another, a lot of those things. Has Bashar really spoke about kind of why we've gone through that last few years, or do you have any intuition on that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, he covers that a lot. I mean, basically, the basic general overview from him is, look, since you are approaching the end of this cycle of limitation, you kind of have to get everything out of your system. You have to get everything out on the table, positive, negative, everything, because you really have to make it very, very clear to yourselves, what kind of a reality do you actually prefer to choose? So there's no getting away from anything now. It's like everyone is just blatantly putting it out as to what they're based on. Are you based on fear? Are you based on love? Are you open to allowing change in your life in a more positive way? Are you closed off to that? So I think we're seeing the extremes now coming out, because it's almost time to realize that there's just nowhere to hide anymore. Everything has to come out in our consciousness, and we have to make choices. And of course, the interesting trick to this, according to Bashar's perspective, is we're never actually changing the world we're on. We're changing ourselves, and we're actually shifting to another version of Earth that is already more reflective of the change we made within ourselves. So it's about being the living example of what you prefer that gives other people a chance to see in you, as the example of a choice, something that is an option for them to decide whether that's what they prefer or not. And it's that ability to see that you're a living example of the choice you made that then helps them decide what they prefer to do. I mean, look at it this way. If you're referring to what most people would call, very negative circumstances going on, well, sometimes you have to see the negative things to make it very, very clear what it is that you prefer by contrast. So that's really the idea going on here. It's the old idea that it's easier to see a candle flame when it's surrounded by darkness. So you focus on the light and you go to the light, and the light grows, if that's what you prefer. And you shift yourself to the version of Earth that is more and more and more bathed in that light. But some people will shift the other way. That's their path. That's what they're learning. That's their soul's journey. Ultimately, we all go to the same place. Ultimately, we all come from the same place. And every single thing is a learning experience. I know some people have difficulty with that, but that's okay. But I think this is the opportunity we have right now, is to learn how to align with existence, or how to be out of alignment with existence, and anything in between. And it's up to us to decide what it is our soul is attempting to learn, and how it can move on from the experiences that it is having.
Yeah, that's very, very, very resonant with me, and a lot of the conclusions through my own understanding, as well as channeling. And something I concluded too, and I want to get your perspective on this. We saw a large divide kind of connect with the world on how the energy was through this experience. And I recognize that most of the fighting happened just because of fear. Like,
Mm-hmm.
half the people feared to lose their health, the other half feared to lose their freedom, and
Yeah,
that fear triggered it.
all fighting happens through fear. There is no reason to fight if you're not in fear, because you understand you have access to things, you have connections to things, you will get what you need. Fear is what causes all of those divisive experiences. So it's about getting in touch with our beliefs, why we buy into the fear, and understanding that that's not a choice we need to make. But a lot of people don't know that they have another choice.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to ask you. How do people work through that if they're still holding on to that? I don't think a lot of people are still holding on heavily to those fears anymore, which is nice to see. The earth kind of needed that purge, like you said, the energy to bubble up to the surface and to wipe a slate clean to get moving in a better and right direction for a
Mhm.
collective sense, you know?
Mhm. Yes. Now, again, there is a growing collective going in that direction. I don't know that everyone will go in that direction, but again, it's up to them to follow their path. And again, it's not about the ability to change the world you're on. It's about navigating yourself to different versions of Earth that are more representative of what you prefer.
Absolutely. And this is something I've heard in our community, and I've heard this from the moment I walked in, in around 2010 to 2012, especially. A lot of people are like, we're going through a transition, guys. We're going through an ascension process, and
Right.
if we don't do right, we're not going to go to the right place, and we're going to leave our family behind if they don't believe in spirituality.
Well, that's
Um,
the way it works. That's the way it works. I mean, again, remember, we'll all be together in spirit, but in physical reality, it's all about making choices, and it's all about taking responsibility for the consequences of those choices. And therefore, we're using the game, the illusion of separation, to walk an individual path so that we can explore many different paths simultaneously. So, not everyone necessarily in this lifetime has to go in the positive direction, but we're eternal, infinite spirits. So, in that sense, there's no hurry. Everyone will figure it out somewhere along the line. They don't have to figure it out in this life.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's kind of my sentiment towards people. I'm like, regardless if your family believes in spirituality or not, it's
Yeah.
all going in the same place. The energy of oneness doesn't divide just because somebody doesn't believe in it. They're still a part of it. They just don't feel that oneness.
Yeah, let me tell you a little story. This happened to Erica, and she was talking with one of her sisters, and she was attempting to explain some of these metaphysical concepts to her. And it's not like she's not a good person. She is, the sister is, but she's not necessarily metaphysically oriented. And so I don't remember exactly what the subject matter was at the time, but Erica said she got the surprise of her life because it was almost like the higher mind of the sister came through for like 5 seconds. Her whole energy and appearance sort of shifted. And she actually looked Erica square in the face and said, "Don't you understand? I can't know this now."
Whoa.
And it's just like the higher mind was like, back off, because this is not her path right now. So you have to really respect that souls have chosen different paths, and that they may not necessarily have chosen a path where they're ready to hear something that another person is ready to hear. They have to arrive there on their own and in their own good time. And we have to respect that. One of the things that really opened my eyes to what Bashar said one time about helping people is, yes, you can help them by being an example that gives them a choice, by being an example that gives them new options. You can share information when it's appropriate to give them an understanding that there is another way. But what they do with the information that you share with them is absolutely none of your business, because you don't know their path. You can't determine that for them. So you have to give them the information, and who knows, a year from now, 10 years from now, maybe they'll get it. Maybe they'll remember the conversation and go, "Oh yeah, that's what they were talking about. I get it now." You cannot force it on them, because forcing something on someone means you don't believe in its power yourself, because you have to try and convince yourself that they have to believe like you do in order for everything to be okay. No, everything is okay. No matter how bad things get, people can always turn around. So you give them what you can, and you leave it in their hands. There's nothing else you can do. That's how you help people. Give them the option, and believe in them enough, and believe in their power and their spirit enough to know that somewhere down the road they'll understand.
Yeah, and this type of energy would create that one phenomenon of people saying, "Hey, if you're not spiritual, you're not a good person. If you're not this, you're not."
Yeah.
That takes that away, and that just shows their own resistance inside
Yeah,
of them and
exactly.
beliefs.
Because telling someone they're not spiritual is not a spiritual thing to say.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's beautiful. Well, I love how you shared that too. It hits home for a lot of people too. We're getting on the edge of time. Before we get to the time, and
Mhm.
we already did the lightning round last time where we asked you about all your favorite things, so we're going to skip that this time around.
Oh, okay.
But because I mean, if people want to watch, they can go clip back to the last
Sure.
15-20 minutes of that. But one of the things I want to talk about before we get going, a lot of people in life in this last few years have felt stuck. They say, "I want a better life. I want a greater spiritual experience. I want to be able to connect to this energy. I want to be able to do things," but they feel stuck. They feel like no matter what they're doing, they're just hitting a wall. Is there any advice you give to them to kind of help them get out of that?
From Bashar's perspective, it's all about why they believe what they believe. So it's crucial to examine what you believe about yourself in any given situation and why you believe that. And it takes real honest self-investigation. You have to become real transparent to yourself to figure out what beliefs you're holding on to and understand how that mechanism works. Because you do not, there are no exceptions to this as far as Bashar is concerned. In my experience, this is true. You do not hold on to any belief you don't believe serves you. Even if you know it's not serving you, there is some belief within you that believes it does serve you, or you would not hold on to it. So people that feel stuck often are actually believing that something bad will happen if they move forward, and therefore they're resistant to do that. So they have to get in touch with why they would believe that. Sometimes the belief is even unconscious. They have to dig down deep, find out what they believe is true about themselves in any given situation. Are they worthy? That's a big one for a lot of people. I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving. And a lot of times that just hangs around in the unconscious mind, and they don't even know why they're sabotaging themselves and why they feel stuck. You have to know what you believe and why you believe it. And once you do, you'll find out that most of the negative beliefs and fear-based beliefs have absolutely nothing to do with you. They're things you picked up along the way, growing up, from your parents, your friends, your school, your society. It's like you're carrying around someone else's baggage. Your bags don't weigh anything. Anytime you feel dragged down, usually that means you're carrying around someone else's beliefs, someone else's baggage. Drop it and you will float. It's really that simple, although I understand that that's another belief that people have, is it can't be that simple. And therefore, by buying into that, it becomes more challenging. Bashar says there are no inherently difficult situations, only a belief that they're difficult. Yes, there are challenges, absolutely, because we need challenges to grow, but challenges are fun, just like in the escape room. So it's about learning how to handle those challenges from a positive point of view and getting a positive effect by doing so, by staying in that state. That's really what it takes. Honesty, self-investigation, staying in a positive state, and being willing to hear the answer when you ask, what would I have to believe is true about myself in this circumstance in order for me to experience what I'm experiencing?
That's very powerful, and I know when people can break through that, then they can get through the whole circumstance thing. Because a lot of people counter to, oh yeah, well I do want this, and I really think that my beliefs are aligned, but I
Mm-hmm.
have to help my mom, I have to walk the dog, I
Right.
have to do my job,
Or
whatever.
right. Or even more telling, a lot of times they say, "Oh, yeah, I've let go of that belief." But then they still react negatively to certain circumstances because they have this idea that, well, the outer world has to change to prove that I've changed. No, it doesn't. The proof of change is that you respond differently, even if the outer world still looks the same. That's the true measure of change, is you're not reacting anymore in the same old way. It has nothing to do with what the outer world looks like. It will eventually change because you have truly changed. But if you still react the same old way to circumstances that you used to, then you haven't changed, and therefore, why should the outer world? It's literally like a mirror. If you see a frown on your face in the mirror, the reflection in the mirror will never be able to smile until you do, just because you prefer to smile. If you wait for the reflection to change into a smile, you'll be waiting forever.
Yeah, your reaction to the circumstance is actually the litmus test to show you that
Yes.
you've either failed or passed on actually integrating. That's genius. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes total
I
sense.
wouldn't say fail or pass. I would just simply say that you get to understand that physical reality as a mirror itself is a guide, and how you respond or react to any circumstance in physical reality will determine your state of being and how you experience life. Now, that doesn't mean that you start looking at negative things and calling them positive. You can still recognize when something is being done from a negative point of view, but you don't react to it negatively. You don't add to the fear. You don't add the negative energy. You stay in yourself, your positive state, and you learn from it how to help, how to be different, how to make more positive and different suggestions for how to go in a different direction with things. So it's about how you use what happens, not about exactly what happens. It's about how you respond to what happens that makes the difference.
That's amazing. And I'm gonna do ask you one more thing here
Mhm.
before we get
Sure.
to the part where we share. But um, when it comes to there's this thing that people share. I've heard a few people say it before, that if you're behaving in an assertive fashion, like drawing lines and saying, "Hey, I'm not accepting this in my life,"
Uh-huh.
that's actually being negative. And I don't think that feels negative if you're not doing it from a place of fear.
No, no, no. There's a positive and negative side to everything. If you're not being resistant to change, if you're not being stubborn about what it is you're experiencing, because you can take other people's advice, other people may have advice to give you that actually works for you. But if you know who you are and you know what you're vibrationally compatible with and that's true for you, no, you don't have to accept things that are not vibrationally compatible with you. And that's not being negative. That's standing your ground in who you are and your truth.
I love that.
Being open and willing to change your mind if you find that things are relevant for you. That's fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. If there's something that's more appropriate for your energy, or more appropriate for your experience, that comes down the line. A lot of people do that too. They say, "Oh, I figured it out, so I'm done learning." There's no
Yeah,
done learning.
let me put it this way. If you're done learning, you'd be dead. You would leave the earth if you're done with this particular thing that you have chosen to do. Now, it's possible to change your theme while you're still alive. But aside from that, if you're done learning, then you need to go on, because why else are you here but to learn a certain thing? So no, people think, oh, I should be beyond this. Why? You may be beyond certain things. You may have learned certain things. You may have grown and gone to a certain level, but there will always be more challenges. There will always be more to discover. Even when you have let go of all negative beliefs, you can still let go of things that are simply no longer relevant for you. So it's a process of streamlining. It's a process of paring down to your true core, who you really are as a being, as a spirit. So yeah, it goes on and on and on. And it doesn't stop when you're a spirit. It goes on and on and on and on. There's always something new to learn. There is no ultimate end, because there was no beginning.
I love that, and that's a topic I could talk to you just for hours about, the afterlife. I know it's something you and Bashar both shared a lot of things about. You did a whole movie about it, so that's interesting too. And it's come to that time in the evening. So before I jump and give you the mic and let you share all the things you've got going on, I first want to say thank you again for coming on the show. You are always so welcome here.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having this doorway as an opportunity to share information. It's great.
Well, absolutely, I appreciate that. It's something that I've said before, and I'll say as long as I speak about you. You're one of the first people who really opened the door for channeling to be accepted, especially in the ET energy. It's something that you've done for so long and have done so great with it. I'm just very, very happy that you opened the door for people like me to find. When I was lost and struggling to understand my own experience, I was able to see what you had shared and what Bashar had shared and say, oh my God, this is not just a me with a broken brain thing, which was great.
Yeah, and people open the door for me too. So, you pass it on.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I also want to say that I'm excited about your escape room. I've been invited to the Conscious Life Expo, and I believe that I'm going. So if that's the case, February, I'll be down there, and hopefully I'll bump into the Conscious Life Expo too, which would be nice seeing Erica again, which would be great. But I want to give you the floor. I want to give you the opportunity to tell people where to find you. We've got links in any description in the place where you guys are watching this in the past or future. There will be links to all the relevant things. But can you also share just anything you've got coming up that you're excited about, or anything in general?
Well, like I said, if they want any information about what Bashar has done or what Bashar is about to do in terms of an event or session, please go to bashar.org, bashar.org. If you want to see some of the things that I'm doing aside from the escape room, you can go to darylanka.com. And the escape room is boggledescaperooms.com. And you can see our website there and what it is we're doing and what the first adventure is all about. And we certainly welcome anyone who would like to experience that. And we're expanding that and creating new ideas for new escape room adventures, and that's what excites me right now. So thank you all very, very much for listening.
Well, I'm grateful for you being here, and you'll definitely see us as we go through, and I hope you all the good luck on that too, because I know it's been such an excitement. Please pass me and Kalina's regards on to Erica too, and to you also. Thanks again for being on the show, brother. It's always amazing.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. My best to everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, brother. And everybody here, we will be back here next week at same time, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, that's 7 Pacific, and we'll have Dante Shante with us. And the next week after that, we'll have Debbie Deshinger with us also. And this is going to be a great time for anyone to share how they feel. We thank you guys for being live, active in the chat. All of our brainiacs out there, thank you for showing up on the Matrix Minds, and thank you all at the ET Whisperer for sharing your hearts and your love. The comments are great. Share with us what you think about everything you heard tonight, everything that you want to hear. And hopefully Daryl will come back to us within the next year or so and come back on the show and chat with us, tell us what he's up to, tell us what life has been like for him. It's actually funny. Daryl is one of a very small group of people who've made 3 appearances on the show. So it's amazing to have him back, and hopefully we'll have you back in the future too, brother.
I'm here. I'm available.
Thank you so much. Well, it's always great to see you guys. Thank you guys for being here tonight too. I love you guys so much for being here and for supporting our work. Thank you for the donation too. And also, we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Have fun, guys. Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. You can find us on the Matrix Minds. You can find us on any platform with a conscious Awakening Network and also the Forbidden Knowledge Network. We love you guys. We'll see you next week on the other side.